So, good evening and welcome all for week 11 of Learning Analytics Tools, where we would be solving previous years or previous runs assignment questions. Okay, so this week's focus for the course was multimodal data analytics, um, which is mostly good to know part for all the people who are new to learning analytics. So you may want to implement it. So if you are interested, you can go into detail. But this week is kind of overview for everyone to understand what is multimodal data, how to collect that data, and how to do preliminary processing of that data, analysis of that data. So it is mostly theory based for those who are new to learning analytics, and very widely used methods are also involve a lot of machine learning, deep learning algorithms to kind of automate the tasks which we can do under using multimodal data, right? So here I have listed down a few of the instruments and the type of data. This instruments as in the sensors which are used to collect and what type of data they can collect. And as you can see, all these data points will help us in understanding the learning processes, how the students learning happens more in detail. Yeah? So brain waves will tell us about whether students are finding anything difficult or it is causing any cognitive load for them. So that we can understand with the help of EEG sensors, their signal analysis. So brain waves are measured using EEG. EEG is I don't know why I have not written the full form. EEG is electroencephalogram, is EEG. So EEG head cap kind of device, which has multiple sensors, which we are supposed to put in direct contact with our scalp or the skin on our brain, and then it will kind of transmit the brainwave signal to it will collect the data, and then the EEG signal we can analyze to understand where the cognitive load is peaking, where there is low cognitive load. So cognitive load is how much stress we are putting on our brain. Yeah? So that we can analyze, or that we can measure using EEG data or the brainwave data. Another upcoming area of research in multimodal learning analytics is facial expressions, deducing emotions of students while they are learning using their facial expressions. So as you know, if we want to capture facial expressions, then there is a webcam or high definition cameras which will point out to the learners when they are performing learning tasks. So that way we can capture their face completely. And there are some action units. Action units are the points in our face, the features of our face, which have a particular value associated when we display a certain emotion. No? So when we are sad, we don't smile like this. No? We will just press our lips together, and maybe a little bit of corners of our lips will be drooping. So that will be one action unit which will help in knowing that a learner is in sadness, and if learner is frustrated, if learner is bored while learning. So all that information we can deduce using their facial expressions. So in addition to all this, we can also capture their voice data, how they are talking. So this is widely used to capture what is going on in the environment, to contextualize learning, and particularly in collaborative learning environment, when you want to understand how a group of students is influencing each other's learning processes. So if there is a group of 4 students, how they are conversing, how they are teaching each other, or how what questions are getting asked, what clarifications are given by which group member it is done. So all that is analyzed in very much detail, and microphone is used to capture that voice. So some of the verbal clues, some of the non-verbal cues in our voice, like change in tone or using of na, so which are not actually words in dictionary, but they convey meaning. So all that deeper analysis is done based on their voice recording and decoding of that voice recording to understand how the collaborative learning processes happen is also very hot area in multimodal analytics research. Then there are various wall mounted biological sensors. There are variety of biological sensors which will tell us about our increase in heartbeat, and so many things that we can use that information to deduce about learners different processes involved. Then another important sensor we can use is eye gaze data or eye tracker sensor. So eye tracker will be particularly useful if we have computer based learning environment. So in that way we can actually capture where our learner is looking when they are learning, on which part of screen they are focusing the most, and this combined with log data of learners can give us so much of insight about their learning processes, their learning strategies, metacognitive processes. So cognitive processes are processes which help us, our brain, understand what we are learning or what we are reading. But metacognition is learning about or being aware about that cognitive processes which are going on. So so when you are attending this lecture, mostly I am in the talking mode, you are in engaged mode, as in you listen to me. But after one point that what you can say, um, that I'm not able to capture how engaged you are, whether you are constantly looking at the screen or whether you are doing something else and just listening. So how much engaged you are, so that it is doubtful. And sometimes we will not be able to capture how engaged you are or what learning processes are going on at your end just by having you as attendee in this meeting. So if I want to capture more about you, I can ask every one of you to switch on your cameras so that I can understand your facial expressions, your eye gaze data, because you would be looking at camera. So with the help of camera I can track where your pupil is moving on the screen. If I am writing something anywhere, are you noticing that I am writing on the top right corner of the screen, or there is some heavy text on top left corner of the screen? So all these things will give me a better understanding of how successful these online sessions are. Right, so in our case the log data is completely missing. I don't know what actions you are doing in Swayam platform, how many videos you have watched, or have you gone through the lecture notes. So that information will also add on to our understanding of whether learning is happening, whether the learning goal will be achieved, or there is need to optimize the learning experience or learning environment for you. So in that scenario, this multi-channel data or multimodal data will be helpful for us to understand how learning processes happen. So skin conductance is measured using GSR, galvanic skin response. So when we are excited, our skin temperature changes. When we are frustrated, we sweat a bit, our skin becomes little damp. So all that information is captured through this GSR sensor, and this also tells us about innate learning processes. um, then our posture, how we are sitting, are we drooping or are we sitting upright. So all that information tells us about how engaged a learner is throughout the learning activity. So that gives us information about whether the learner is engaged or not engaged in our learning session. Yeah. So now yeah. So now, what is effective computing? So effective computing is to understand how human emotions or learner emotions are happening in classroom setting or in teaching learning setting. So mostly what happens is when teacher is teaching in a physical classroom, they will scan the classroom to understand, to gauge the vibe in the classroom, whether students are understanding, whether they are frustrated, whether they are bored. So all that things they can detect by looking at the facial expressions of students. So but when such um, expertise is absent in many of the scenarios where we are engaging in computer based learning environment, or if we are engaged in remote teaching learning just like our current session, so in that case we can help, or in order to have deeper understanding about this effect of each and every student, we can use this different sensors, and we can have multiple channels of data and multiple modes of data to understand how this emotion dynamics or affect dynamics is working in our case. So I have listed down a few what you can say, the data points which can help in understanding affective computing. Yeah. So facial expressions we have discussed in previous slide, then speech analysis we discussed in previous slide. Yeah, body language and postures and gestures, they also tell us about emotions which learner is going through. Then physiological monitoring, heart rate monitoring, and GSR, galvanic skin response, that will tell us, and electromyograph, that will tell us about how um, we are reacting at physiological level to the teaching learning processes. And text as in the utterances, the speech analysis, what we are talking and how we are talking. These both, the combination of both the information will tell us about the emotions which learner is going through. Then there was an interesting experiment done by in the area of ethnography by Dr. Paul Ekman. So they conducted a research in tribal area of Papua New Guinea. He went to Papua New Guinea where in 1960s, when they were not exposed to many modern societies, they were the tribals of Papua New Guinea, they still were engaged in their way of living. So at that time there was no external influence on them or their emotions, because we tend to mask our emotions in many of the settings. But these tribal people, they were not exposed to that masking mechanism, they didn't know how to hide their emotions. So that's why Paul Ekman chose to conduct this study with the tribals of Papua New Guinea. And he noted down, it was a very extensive study. For years he stayed with the tribal people there, he tried to understand how their face is showing different emotions, and then he kind of jotted down how the visual representations through facial expressions is of these emotions, different emotions. So he came up with the 6 basic emotions, which are anger, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, and surprise. So these are basic human emotions, but learner centric emotions are different, because while learning you will seldom find somebody angry, or some sadness you will detect, or fear you will detect. So all these emotions are totally absent in teaching learning scenario. So there is something called learner centric emotions. Learner centric emotions. So learner centric emotions are mostly engaged, how involved students are in these teaching learning process, how much attention they are paying. And there are in students engagement, there are different attributes or different facades to engagement. One is behavioral engagement, then there is affect engagement, how emotionally engaged students are when teachers teaching, and behavior and affective engagement. So likewise we can gauge whether they are emotionally with the instructor, or they're actively engaged with the instructor. So that can be that we can see. So engaged, and then boredom, frustration. Then surprise is also one of the user centric emotion. that when we are learning something which is totally unexpected, then we may show some elements of surprise while learning. Uh, yeah. So these are few of the learner-centric emotions. Now, coming to how affect dynamics works in teaching learning scenario is, in the beginning of the lecture it is observed that, or when any new task is beginning, generally students are engaged, or there is a sense of equilibrium. What teacher is saying, they are understanding. So that equilibrium is observed in the classroom. Then there is some, so this is the equilibrium or flow state. So that happens in the beginning of the lecture or in beginning of classroom session. And then if students show sustained engagement, then if students are learning something new, where they are actively accumulating new information, and when they are trying to put that information or process that information, then there is a factor of novelty or surprise. And if they are not able to understand what is going on, so slowly there is a state of disengagement or confusion. When we are not able to understand something, humans generally tend to get confused. So there is a state of confusion. And then if that confusion is sustained for longer time, then we are stuck or we get frustrated, and that eventually leads to boredom or a complete disengagement. So from engagement to disengagement, this is a continuum and not the black and white area. The student is either engaged or completely disengaged. It doesn't happen. From engagement to disengagement, there is a gradual change or gradual move. And another emotion which is happening parallel is achievement or delight. When we are able to relate to information getting delivered in through that lecture, then there is a sense of delight when we are with the teacher, and when we know something and the teacher is saying that same thing, then there is factor of delight in the picture. So that is happening parallel, but the major transition would be from engagement to confusion to frustration and to boredom. So if we are not able to keep up with the teacher, then slowly confusion arises, then increased or sustained confusion leads to frustration, and then ultimately it happens that student stops paying attention to what is going on, and they are completely disengaged or in the state of boredom. Okay, so this was the affect dynamics. Now coming to another mode of data is eye tracking data. So these are different modes of data which we are collecting to different channels. So this was affect detection is all about facial expressions. How I just explained, Shrija, what is the affect dynamics. Affect dynamics is how the emotions change in the teaching learning scenario. Yeah? So in eye tracking, what happens is we need to mount eye tracking device which will through infrared rays, which will track the motion of our pupils. So it is generally mounted at the bottom of the screen, where students are going to get new information. So at the bottom of that screen we will mount that device, and we will calibrate that device, or we will adjust that device so that the infrared sensors are able to detect our eye movement properly. Okay, so once that is done, then wherever our eyes are going to see on the screen, that is going to get captured in terms of the coordinates, screen coordinates. So that is how the eye tracking data is collected and stored. Now in that data we just have the coordinate with the timestamp. So that's the raw data we have for the eye tracker. Now based on that data, what are different information or features which we can generate are fixation count. So when I'm going through a screen, I will be looking at a particular area of that screen to read something or to understand something. So I will spend a little bit more time on that point. So that is fixation. So that how many times there was a fixation or there was a long stare at one particular point in the screen, that is fixation count. So total number of fixations counted in a page is fixation count. Now fixation duration, for how long our gaze was fixated at a particular point, is fixation duration. Yeah. So that fixation duration is generally, we will have all the fixation count, we will have data of corresponding fixation duration, and average fixation duration in milliseconds is average of all that, all those numbers. Now fixation count on AOI. Now AOI is area of interest. So in computer screen, generally what happens is, if you have noticed Moodle or Google Classroom, on one side of the screen, especially on left hand side panel, there are few buttons which we are not really interested, and there is a small portion on the screen which has the information which is supposed to be read by the students, or in the small portion of the screen there is some video which students are supposed to watch. So what so that so we are concerned with students eye gaze in that particular area only. So we are interested in how many times student is fixating on our area of interest. So that is AOI. So for AOI we can again count the number of fixations, average fixation duration. So all that only pertaining to the set of coordinates which are bounding our area of interest. Yeah. So we will consider only those coordinates which are captured by eye tracker, which happen to be in that particular square. Then what is saccade? Saccade is there is a when we are reading, we are constantly moving our eye gaze from one point to other, then we are again going on to next line, moving from one point to other. So that continuous movement is saccade. So what is relative saccade angle is between two consecutive saccades. So I'm reading this one line, one saccade, I'm reading second line, then there is some image, then I'm looking at that image from left to right. So what is the relative angle, what is the difference in those saccades or the long gazes is the relative saccade angle. Now saccade amplitude is from this angle to this point. So there is this what you can say, degree or minutes of the arc. So this is saccade amplitude. So all these information will tell us for how long, which information in our given page, which information student is paying more attention to. So it will give us information about that. So using eye tracking, so generally eye tracking alone is not preferred. We kind of use eye tracking along with the log data. Log data will tell us what actions students are doing, and eye tracking will tell us about where exactly they are looking on the screen. So together with that eye tracking and the log data, we get information about students learning. That is why it is called multi-modal data. So one mode is their actions log data, and one mode is their eye gaze data. So when we use both the data modes together, we are performing multimodal data analytics to understand learning processes. So that was all about multimodal learning analytics. So now based on this discussion, I want you to answer this question 1. What is multimodal learning analytics? There are some options given. I'm going to take a water break here, and meanwhile you can read the options and try to give me the correct answer in the chat box. Okay, so let me, no, it is not MSQ, it is MCQ. There is only one correct answer, one correct option for this question. So option 1 says a method of collecting data from multiple channel and present it to user. So first part of the sentence is correct. We are collecting data from multiple channels, but we are not presenting it to user as it is. We are doing some type of processing. So this sentence is not completely right. So only one part of it is right. It doesn't end at collection, but there is analysis involved. Yeah. Second option is a way of analyzing data using different machine learning techniques and AI tools to ensure low errors in sophisticated manner. So it is also not a not correct statement when it comes to multimodal learning analytics. Now we will go to option 4 first, and then we will come to option 3, because there is some confusion between option 1 and 3 in the chat box. So we'll come to option 3 at the end. So option 4 says a methodology in which a user has access to his own data through multiple modes, and he and she can modify, analyze her own data for improvement. So this is generally, we don't do this. A researcher will be doing this for learners. So now let's come to option 3. A set of techniques that can be used to collect multiple sources of data in high frequency, synchronize and code that data, examine learning in realistic, ecologically valid, social and mixed media learning environments. So this is the correct definition of multimodal learning analytics. Now let's try to decode this big statement. So first part of the statement says it's a set of techniques. So it's a different techniques. So that's okay. Moving on, that can be used to collect multiple sources of data. So we saw how more than one sources of data, when they are used to understand the learning processes, is multimodal. So okay, this statement is also fitting with what we have seen till now. Yeah, so we are collecting multiple sources of data in high frequency, synchronize and code that data. So about high frequency is we are collecting that data in real time for every second in continuous manner. So that is high frequency. Then synchronize, so when we are conducting data from two different channels, from two different sources, then we need to understand the time frame which is used to capture one source of data has to be same time frame which is used to capture other source of data. For example, log data, if we are capturing and there is a timestamp involved, then that timestamp should match with the iGaze timestamp. That is synchronization. We are bringing both the sources of data on the same timeline. That is synchronization. Now coding that data, so raw data will not give us any information. Say here the very excellent example would be to have effect detection through facial expressions. Only the video recording is not going to tell us about the emotions which learners are displaying, but we need to train our machine learning model that which facial expressions are related to which particular emotion. You know, what action units to consider, what features to consider, when to consider eyebrow movement, and not only a singular action unit but multiple action units are used to deduce the emotional state of learner at that particular point. So all this is coding of that data. The raw data would be the frames which are captured in that, when we are capturing their facial expressions, it's a frame by frame data. So images are captured. So only images will not give us any information. We have to train our machine learning algorithm to understand which facial expressions, which features, how a change in features of our face is going to change in the emotions which are detected in that frame. So for that, coding is essential, labeling of that data is essential. Then so all this we do because we want to examine learning in realistic, ecologically valid, social and mixed media learning environment. So in classroom learning, it is not only teacher is talking and student is listening. It is not simple, it is very complex. So when we are capturing such different information, like we are capturing with microphone what is going on in the group when a collaborative study is happening, so that will help us in understand the valid social setting, valid ecological setting of our teaching learning processes. So this is how we gain better understanding about learning environments also and learning media also. So one doubt in the chat box, as collection of data from multiple channel is not mentioned in yes, it is. So the thing is, all other statements are incomplete. They are not completely wrong, but they are incomplete. They don't tell us complete information about multimodal learning analytics. So option 2, what they are saying is it's a way of analyzing data using different machine learning techniques and AI tools, but there is no mention of data collection through different sources. And of course, when we are using all the AI tools, and when we are using sophisticated state of the art sensors to capture that data, so we have to ensure that the is there any doubt? Shrija, you are on unmute. You want to ask something? Okay, so I was saying, might be by mistake. So that's what I was saying, that all the statements, other statements are not completely wrong, but they are incomplete, or they are not able to give the complete information about multimodal learning analytics. So best possible, or the closest correct description is option C. You are not audible, Shrija. Your voice is breaking in between. Is she audible to others? Can somebody tell me what is she asking? Because I'm not able to hear what is she saying. Okay. Maybe Shrija, you can try moving into a better network area and then asking question. Or you can simply type in the chat box. That is also fine. So by the time Shrija is typing and asking her doubt, we'll move to next question. Once her doubt comes, we'll go back to question 1 if that is related to that. So this is about Paul Ekman's cross-cultural research, which he conducted in 60s. So which of the following are not one of the basic emotions? So we saw this: anger, disgust, boredom, happiness, confusion. Out of this, so understand there could be multiple answers correct. Okay. So few like two of them are learner centric emotions. They are not basic human emotions. So what's the difference between basic human emotions and learner centric emotions is, learner centric emotions are observed predominantly during learning, when learning is happening by a student. At that time, the set of emotions are observed which are not basic emotions. Basic emotions are emotions which we display in our day to day life, in social setting, in setting which is not limited to classroom teaching learning. When we are interacting with our family members, with our friends, so when there is social interaction happening, at that time, the what type of emotions we are exhibiting, so those emotions are basic human emotions. And the emotions which we are solely exhibiting during teaching learning, that is learner centric emotion by learners. Okay. So anger, disgust and happiness are Paul Ekman's basic human emotions, but boredom and confusion are only two emotions which are learner centric, and these are all basic. Yeah. So disgust is also one of the basic human emotion, and the question asked is which of the following are not basic emotions. Yeah. So that's why correct answer is option 3 and option 5. Okay. So Ria, I hope it is clear. You have said the 2, 3 and 5. So option 2 is disgust. We generally don't get disgusted when we are learning. Okay, think from that point of view. What are the emotions which we exhibit when we are learning? So we get bored and we get confused. But in our other social setting, we get angry, we get happy, and we get disgusted by certain things. Yeah? So boredom is not while interacting, while happening social interaction. We generally don't get bored. We don't exhibit boredom unless we are watching something, or unless we are there's that one way interaction. Confusion may or may not happen in social setting, but in classroom setting while learning, it is predominantly observed that for certain fraction of seconds we may show confused expressions, or we may get confused for some very little time, and then as things become clear, then we go from confusion to engagement. Yeah. So coming to question 3, according to facial action coding system described in iMotion's blog. So iMotion's blog link you can get from the lecture notes. Okay, so I will advise you go through this iMotion's blog, how action units are decided and how they are um, used to deduce emotions, so there are different features in our face, and based on how these features are, the emotion is deduced, or emotion is inferred. Yeah. So please go through that iMotions blog. Their example facial expressions and what is the emotion to be deduced, all that information is given. So please go through that before the exam, so that you can solve these type of questions. Okay, so here facial expressions image is given, description is given. So first picture is of raised eyebrow, inner brow is raised, then brow lowerer. Okay, so something like this, and then suddenly like this is happening, and lip corner depressor. So there is no, lips are not going yeah, so lips are not smiling, they are not apart, they are pressed together, something like this. So what would be the best or the most possible, most plausible emotion which can be deduced using these facial units? Okay, I'm getting varied answer here. Option 1, option 5, option 3, and option 1. Okay, so let's go from 5 to 1. Okay, so disgust, this doesn't look like disgust, raising eyebrows, and then this is certainly not disgust. So we all agree it cannot be option 5, because there is raising eyebrows, and maybe when we are disgusted, apart from raising and downing our eyebrows, we may not keep our lips pressed together. Mostly disgust will be something like that, lips will be pressed, but widening of lips will be there. Lips will not be, lips corners will not be depressed. You try imagining or try making faces when you are disgusted by something. How do you react? And then you try matching that with the description given here of the facial expressions, right? So now disgust, it cannot be there. Anger, let's try how we react when we are angry at somebody. Okay, so do we generally in anger we raise our eyebrows, we don't generally compress our inner brows, or we just don't keep our lips compressed. This is not the expressions which we show when we are angry. So try to think of your own facial expressions when you are angry. Yeah, so how do you react? You mostly our eyes get open up and our eyebrows get raised when we are angry, and we don't generally keep our mouth shut, we keep on talking when we are angry. So this lip corner depressor is certainly telling us that it is not anger, right? Then fear, in fear it is not just these three action units for fear. And mostly when we are dealing with learning analytics, multimodal learning analytics, it will in teaching learning, fear is very it's observed very less number of times, and mostly fear is associated with not the raising of eyebrows or compressing of eyebrows, but mostly surprised look, that they would be some other expressions also. So fear is more complex and complicated expression, and it will not be given away by just these three action units, you know. So I doubt it will be fear as well, you know. And then surprise. So in surprise we are generally not sad, you know. So lip corner depressor is very going towards sadness. When we are not happy, we would be doing like this. So this is matching with the sadness description, more accurate to it. This entire thing is going to sadness. So the probability of this emotion being sadness is high, is more, you know. Because when we are not happy, or when we are little sad, the the more prominent action units are our eyes and our mouth only. There is no what you can say, there is no continuous this thing, you know, raise of eyebrows, or this. We'll be just doing it for a fraction of seconds, and then keeping our lips together, and maybe not like this, but like this. Yeah. So
Ma'am,
yeah, yes.
ma'am, in the third picture, the mouth is not open. Is it so? If it is
Yes.
open, then the coordination of the three picture leads to anger. Is it so?
So all that information you will find on iMotion's blog. Okay, so this thing is confusing. It is not my area of expertise, so obviously I don't remember all the combination of actuation units and how they are leading to which emotions. So that I don't remember completely. But what my way of doing such problems is going through, okay, when we are disgusted or when we are surprised, how do we react, what are our facial expressions. So that is how we are doing. But if you want to be sure, go through this action blog. So I will tell what are action units. So when you remember, when we saw machine learning in initial weeks, I told you about the feature generation. Based on raw log data, we are actually deriving some information which will be useful for us. So that process is called feature generation. So similarly, to derive information about our emotions through our facial expression, what we are doing is we are listing down the features which will be useful for emotion detection. Yeah. So what are the features, prominent features, which we use to express our emotions? Mainly the eyebrows, whether we are closing our eyes or whether we are opening our eyes, or whether we are raising our eyebrows and, you know, looking like this. So that is one action unit. So action unit here is equivalent of feature generation phase in our log data analysis. Yeah. So these are multiple features will give us information. Like, you know, I'll try to relate this to previous this thing. Okay, so there is attendance, there is assignment marks, there is project marks. All this can be used to predict the students final marks. Yeah? So these are all features which are together used to predict some dependent variable, right? So here these are the features which are called action units. So these are all action units together. These action units will tell us which emotion is getting displayed through our facial expressions. So action unit is nothing but individual expression of our features, you know, lips. Or sometimes when we are angry, we also have flared nostrils, so that also adds to anger, you know. So this that action unit was missing, so that's why it was not anger. So in fear we generally, you know, yeah, fear has different set of expressive features, different set of action units. So it is not fear. In surprise we don't keep our lips pressed together, and we don't depress our lips. So this is not surprise as well. But this is very much related to sadness, because there is lowering of eyebrows, there is raising of eyebrows, lowering of eyebrows, and we are not keeping our lips apart, our lips are pressed together. So these three different things are all action units. So I
Ma'am,
hope.
in fact, ma'am,
Hmm.
uh, when we find an emoji that is a sad emoji, you might know
Hmm.
that
Hmm. Hmm.
that emoji lips is the curved lips curved lip, that is lip
Right.
shapes, is relates to sadness.
Hmm.
But here the girl is not as much. The lips are not in the curve shape. That just she keeps mum. Is it no mum? That's the reaction she gives.
So,
Uh,
so yeah,
in the third.
yeah, third
Mm.
one. I'm trying to zoom in. So, can you see this shape?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
it's a
removing
mild
it. I'm
curve.
trying
A mild
to
curve.
mild curve. Yeah, now it is more accurate. Yeah, it is
Okay.
not complete straight line. So maybe
Mm.
because when we are humans, when we are sad, we don't, somehow I'm not showing my sadness like this, no. I will be not making faces with mouth, but I will be just pressing my lips together.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah, so that's how, it is mild downwards curve. Yeah.
We need to coordinate the three pictures. Is it no, ma'am?
Yes, yes. So these are all different action units. So together we should consider to understand what emotions they are depicting.
Okay, we together we have to consider this
All three.
reactions, and we conclude that it is a sadness.
Yes, yes. So for every
Okay.
emotion, whatever action unit, so for this there were only three action units given. So for other emotions there could be more action units given also. So you have to consider all together. Yeah. So each emotion is displayed for fraction of seconds, for few seconds only. Maximum duration for emotion display is measured as 1 second to 6 seconds. So in that time, how our emotions are displayed through our eyes, through nose, through lips, whether lips are parted, whether they are pressed together, whether lips are wide, they are stretched, or whether they are decompressed. So likewise all this information you have to consider in order to deduce the emotion. Okay. So I will be now reading the questions in the chat. What is the need of action unit? What are the where can we use action units and how? So Ria, I hope in this discussion your both the questions are answered, because I explained in detail what are action units and how we can use action units. Ria? Okay, I am going ahead next question, because I believe I have kind of tried to when I was explaining doubts, then at that time I spoke about this also, what are action units and how we can use action units together. So moving on to next question. In facial action coding system, which facial expressions are most suitable? So I think these are different features we are using for understanding what emotion is depicted. So for some emotions, eyes, eyebrows together, that is one of the action units. Lip movement is one other action unit. What is the position of lips? Then nose, are nose flared nostrils, or not flared nostrils? Then if the burrow is formed, whether there is crease on forehead. So all this information, all these action units are used. So mostly it is our forehead, our eyebrows, eyes, and our nostrils. Okay, assignment, there is number under images, and how to use these numbers. We'll have to remember. No, so you don't have to remember all the images. What we did today is we'll just observe the expressions. We will ignore whatever is written or the number which is written. You can ignore that. We will observe here. We can clearly see the raised eyebrows, right? So we can also ourselves we can write raised eyebrows. Now this is eyebrow is lowered, and here we try to understand whether lips are pressed together, whether they are wide, smiling wide, teeth are showing, lips are apart, or lips are pressed together. That we can understand. So you don't need to memorize all the numbers, only you need to understand which expressions to associate with which emotion. Yes, we can compare all the things with us. We don't need to remember the numbers. I will never recommend by hearting anything or remembering anything. I'm one person who is against this rote learning, so I will never ever advise you to memorize something or to remember something. Go through it, try to understand, go to iMotions blog. They are very beautifully explained how different action units help us in understanding different emotions, how our expressions, so they have decoded our expressions, our movements, facial movements, our facial features movements, how our eye movement changes, how our the opening and closing of eyes, whether we are extra opening or whether we are narrowing and looking, what is the position of our eyebrows. So all these they have tried to link it to different emotions. So you go through that and you try to understand, and then you will realize कि okay, this is how even I show emotions. When I am hungry, when I am angry, or when I'm sad, then how I show, how I express through my facial expressions, it is very close to that, because it doesn't matter which race we are. So this is white lady, white woman, and we all are Indians here. We don't come from that culture, we don't come from that race, but still there are some similarities in showing expressions through our face, showing emotions through our face. Yeah, so it is not very different. There are some subtle differences, but those differences are not too much which will cause confusion. It is not like that. There is just degree of expressions, and that comes in our day to day behavior also. When our moms are angry with us, they will exaggerate their facial expressions so that it is easier for us to deduce that okay, your mom is angry with you. Yeah, but when you are in your office setting, or when you are in school, and if you are angry with your teacher, or in office you are angry with your boss, you will not exaggerate your emotions, but you will try to suppress that emotion. So try to understand, this is very complicated area. That's why mostly it is backed with, it requires application of machine learning and deep learning algorithm to automate this, to detect this. Yeah. So why are we learning this is, when you want to do it in future, then you should understand, you should be able to train your machine learning model for, you should be able to label the images for corresponding emotions. That's why we have to learn this. Now this is the eye gaze analysis. So we talked about saccades and fixations. So this is the graph which will tell us about fixations, where the most number of fixation happened and where the least number of fixations happened, and the area where no fixation was observed. Yeah, so this image tells us that. So what do you think are red, yellow, and green areas? Shrija, I told you, I answered your questions. What is action unit? I actually repeated some 4 or 5 times what is action unit. Action unit are the features from our facial expressions which will help us in understanding what emotion is getting displayed. And when we want to deduce that emotion, we have to consider all the action units together. Whatever given n number of 10 action units, so all the 10 action units combined together, what information about our emotions they are telling us. So this is action unit. What is the eyes expression? What is the eyebrow position? That is one action unit. What is the lip position? That is another action unit. Now coming to question 4. Now what is this image about? So the question is asked, what is red color, yellow color, and green color in this eye tracking heat map? So I'm getting option 2 as answer. Let's go through all the option. Okay, so since there is a color gradient, so heat map generally tells us about the variations in something. Okay, so the color code is about the variations in something. So this is about eye tracking heat map. So this color code will tell us about variations in eye gaze data or fixation data, where most number of eye gazes were observed. Okay, so equal amount of eye gaze are pointed towards parts of images. So this is one image. Yeah, so this is one image over here, and this is other image over here. Yeah, So they are saying that we are able to infer that equal amount of gaze points are directed towards parts of image. Is it so? There is a gradient observed here, there is gradient observed here. So that means this option is not right, it is not correct. Option 2 says descending order of amount of gaze points that were directed towards parts of the image. Yeah. So from red to green, from red to green, red, yellow, green, there is descending order of eye gaze amount, which are pointed to this particular region or part of image. Yeah. So as you can see, the gradient, red is at high, green is at low. So it is descending order from red to green. So this is correct. Now let us read all the options to be sure that option 2 is only the correct option. So option 3 says ascending order of amount of the gaze points that were directed towards the part of image. So it is not ascending but descending. Most number of eye gazes are depicted through red color and the least number of eye gazes are green color, and no eye gaze is blank. So it is descending order, because here mentioned it is red, yellow and green color. The order here mentioned is red, yellow, green. That's why descending is correct and ascending order is wrong. Now random trace data, no, it is not random trace data, it is amount of eye gaze data. This is also wrong. So correct answer is option 2. So question 5 is select the correct sequence of actions which are needed to infer the affective state. So we have talked about this in very detail. So I'm going to take a water break and I'll be waiting for your answers for this question. Okay. So we have discussed that what type of data we need to collect for affect detection through our facial expressions and what are the process which we need to follow. So we have discussed this some 3-4 times till now. So I'll wait for the answers in the chat box. Okay, I'm getting few answers in the chat box. So let's try reading the options. So first option says detect action units from database, predict the affective state and then detect the faces from the video. This doesn't seem like correct sequence. How we can detect the action units from database and then predict and then at the end detect the face? This is wrong sequence, because we are asked about what is the correct sequence, what is the correct order in which we are supposed to perform this action for effect detection. So option 2 says predict effective state, detect the face from video and detect the action units from database. So many of you have chosen this option. How you can predict the affective state first and then go on detecting the face from the video and then go on detecting the action units from the face, whereas we have discussed that action units will help in predicting the affective state. So this sequence is wrong. Yeah, first we will detect the face from video frame. From that face we'll try to identify the action units. What are the expressions of eyebrows, what are the position of lips, what is the action of the nose, or what is the action performed in the eye area, what is the expressions in forehead area. All this we will detect based on their face from their video. So first we have to detect the face. Once we have detected the face, we will detect the action units and then we'll go on predicting the affective states. When we have action units with us, only then we can predict the affective state. So option 3 is the correct answer. Option 2 is wrong. How we can predict something as the first step? We don't have information about their facial expressions, we don't have information about their action units. Only after we have information about their action units, we can predict their effective state. Yeah? So option 4 says detect the face from video data frame, predict the effective state and detect the action units. No, we have to detect the action unit first, Only then we will be able to predict the affective state. So this is also wrong. So correct order is option 3. Is this clear for everyone? Option 2 is wrong, option 4 is wrong, and option 1 is wrong. It is not the correct order. Great. Okay, so we'll move on to question 6. Select which is not the challenge in human observation and self-reporting of detecting affective state. So once we have the facial expressions data, once we have the action units data, how does a computer knows, or how does our machine learning algorithm knows that which action unit value is associated with which affective state? We need to train that machine learning model, we need to train that algorithm. So how we will train? We will label those set of action units together is this XYZ affective state. So we will label that data, we will train our machine learning model. So for that training, we need to have some ground truth established. Okay, once we have that ground truth, okay, we have information about expressions and their emotional state by human observation, by a third person observation, and self reporting of the learner themselves. If we have these two are matching, only then we have established the ground truth, and that truth can be used to train the machine learning model. So now in this entire process of observing human expressions to deduce the affect state and the self-reporting. Self-reporting is when I am the learner, I am only giving information about what emotions I had looking at my face. So we are recording their facial expressions, then we are showing their expressions to the student themselves and asking at this point, how were you feeling? Were you excited? Were you frustrated? Were you bored? So then when students say, okay, I was bored, so then that facial expressions, those set of expressions, those set of action units together will get labeled as boredom. Yeah, so that is how self-reporting works. So which is not the challenge, so we have to identify the false statement in out of these 5. Okay, so it's time consuming. It is true, it is absolutely time consuming, because we have to follow self-reporting, we have to sit with the learners, we have to show them the recording of their own, and then ask at each point when their expressions are changing. At that point we have to ask them, how were you feeling at this point? So of course it is time consuming. So this is, we are saying it is not the challenge. So this is wrong, because this is the correct statement. Then second is authenticity of self-reported data is questionable. Of course I can misinform if I go and ask some school kids about their facial expressions and how were you feeling at that time. They may not report it correctly, they may not feel comfortable in telling me that they were frustrated at that point. They would say, no, we were just confused. So this is, self-report data is not completely reliable. So this is also a big challenge in affect computing, that self-report data can be biased. It will not be 100% correct self-reporting all the time. So this is also one of the challenge. Then accuracy will not be good always. So accuracy of the data will depend on humans which are observing and coding particular facial expressions as a particular emotion. Then if there are multiple humans are involved, then there has to be inter-rater agreement. All of them have to agree that a certain set of facial expressions are related to one emotion only, and that one emotion all of them have to agree, or majority of them have to agree. So accuracy is always in question for human observation and self-reporting. So this is also one of the challenge. Yeah. Then statement 4 is human observation and self-reporting is very costly process. So when we are asking other fellow human observers to come and observe the classroom, to note facial expressions and affective states of each and every learner, then we are just asking for their time and maybe some payment, but it is not as costly as buying sophisticated sensors to detect that. Okay, so now we will just keep this option on hold. And of course self-report is a survey, or you can just float a survey, how are you feeling, or you can sit with the learner and show them their own facial expressions and ask them at this moment, how are you feeling. So cost involved is not so much high, because web cameras are not very expensive, which are used for facial recording. So option 4 is not a challenge, but let's read option 5 also. Inter observer reliability score will be low most of the time. Yes, the chances of agreement between multiple human observers that these set of expressions are associated with this one emotion only is not always going to happen. So the inter observer reliability or inter rater reliability is very difficult to achieve. There is no 100% inter rater reliability. So standard in research is that if inter rater reliability is 0.7 or 70% of the time, if multiple observers are agreeing for something, then it is acceptable. Yeah. So of course option 5 is also challenge. So correct answer is option 4, that human observation and self reporting is very costly process, that because the cost involved in human observation and self reporting is not much, so this is not a challenge. Okay, going to 7, match the following for correct pair. So skin conductance, uh, EEG signal, microphone, GSR, or emotion. With which should I connect skin conductance? Skin conductance is with, yes, C, GSR. Then facial expressions, correct, D, emotions. Now brain waves, how brain waves are, yes, EEG signal. Yeah. Electroencephalogram, EEG. Yeah. Then think aloud. Think aloud is asking students what they are thinking at that moment and talking that, rather than thinking, keeping their thought to themselves. They are requested to speak aloud what they are thinking. So that process is called think aloud. So when you are speaking something, that can be captured by microphone. B. So the correct order is 1C, 2D, 3A, and 4B. And this is option 4. Going on to question 8. Which of the following data can be collected using eye tracker? Yeah. So we have discussed this also in detail, what information we can gain from data which is collected by eye tracker. So eye tracker will collect the coordinates where our pupil or our eye is looking at or is fixating. So one information which they can collect is eye fixations. If we are looking at a particular point for long number of time, then saccadic eye movement, when reading how we are moving our eyes from one point of screen to other point of screen, that is saccadic eye movement. So this also we are collecting using eye tracker. Then raising and lowering of eyebrow, is eyebrow movement can eyebrow movement be detected or collected using eye tracker? No, eye tracker is concerned only with the pupil movement. Other than pupils, eye tracker fails to capture. So if we are not directly looking into the eye tracker instrument, eye tracker will not be able to capture the information where we are looking exactly. Yeah. So when we are looking away from the screen, so generally eye tracker is fitted at the bottom of the screen. So when we are generally looking away from the screen, when our pupil is not in direct in straight line with the eye tracker, then eye tracker will not be able to capture that. So eye tracker is mainly associated only with the pupil movement and not with the eyebrows or eyelids. So these two options, option 3 and option 4, are wrong. And pupil dilation, because eye tracker measures where our pupil is moving and what is the shape of the pupil, so that it can correctly detect the movement of pupil. So pupil dilation is also captured using eye tracker data. So correct answer is option 1, 2 and 5, pupil dilation also. So eye tracker is based on infrared technology, and it detects, we have to, so before eye tracker starts capturing the data, we have to calibrate that eye tracker for a particular human. So if you want to capture your own eye gaze data, then in the beginning the eye gaze machine will ask you to look at particular points whose coordinates are known to the eye tracker machine, and then what is the angular movement which is detected by the infrared sensor of eye tracker and your pupil. So based on that, it is measuring. Okay. Partial marking, I didn't understand what is partial marking, Ria. You mean negative marking? So all the rules are same for all NPTEL exams. I'm not.
No, ma'am. Actually, if for MSQ question
Okay, okay,
two
yeah,
or
yeah,
three
ha, ha,
question
ha.
are right,
Yeah.
then partial marking is possible. In assignment, they're giving partial
There,
marking.
yeah, yeah. So same thing is followed in final exam also. If two options are right and you answer only one correct answer, then you will get half the marks associated. So I think, yeah, partial marking is there in final exam.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So and general NPTEL rules are same for assignment also and for your final exam also. So don't worry. And many of the times the instructors also request NPTEL for partial marking if they are not doing it, because if out of three options, two options are correctly marked by the students, then many of the times we feel that okay, students should get marks. So we when we verify the answer key, then we can request, and mostly the instructor of this course, Professor Ramkumar, he requests for partial marking. So don't worry, it will be there for final exam also. Yeah. So now coming to question 9. Ajit, a grade 8 boy, was attending a biology class on topic of human cells. Since the concept taught were abstract in nature, he could not connect to the teaching throughout the class. Although he showed keen interest in beginning. Okay, so this is important. So he was not what you can say, he was not connected to the teaching throughout the class, but he showed keen interest in the beginning. So in the beginning he was engaged. What could be possible sequence of his affective state using observed models of affective dynamics? So we saw this model of affective dynamics when we revised the theory for this week. So what that affective dynamics model says is, so affective dynamics model was proposed by Professor Sidney DeMello in 2012. So what he did was he collected affective state data for large group of students, hundreds of students, and then he tried to understand how the emotional states or how the affect states are changing in that lecture for every student. So based on that, he proposed this affective dynamic model. So what he said that generally in the beginning of the lectures, students are engaged, and afterwards they get confused when they are not able to keep up with the information being delivered in the lecture. And prolonged confusion, it translates into frustration after some time. Why I'm not able to understand? Okay, firstly they are okay, I'm not able to understand, I'm not able to understand, and then the frustration builds up saying why I'm not able to understand. But then if that frustration also is persistent for longer duration, they will get bored. Okay, fine, I'm not able to understand, why should I pay attention? And they will be disengaged. So this is the what you can say, this is the theory behind affective dynamics model. So this engaged, confusion, frustration and boredom is the sequence which you can observe in option 2 here. Yeah? So boredom happens at the end. So the disengagement, from engagement to disengagement, that continuum, it goes through engagement, confusion, frustration and boredom. So student is trying to understand, he detects the confusion first, how we are not able to keep up with what is going on in the lecture, that results in confusion. And then prolonged confusion, then even after some time we are not able to understand what is going on, or we are not able to keep up with the lecture. Then frustration will occur, that why we are not able to keep up. And if that frustration is also prolonged, and after some time we stop paying attention out of boredom. So boredom happens at the end. Now coming to question 10. In research study, non-verbal cues were analyzed to study the emotional engagement, behavioral engagement and cognitive engagement of learners in classroom. The given figure shows the image captured from video feed during the study. In the study, the bounding boxes were formed around individuals and analyzed to find their emotional state. Now we have to choose the options which could be considered to make the bounding boxes. So basically for face detection, bounding boxes are around face. Yeah? So which of the following we should consider when we want to make the bounding boxes? So so note they have given is that the faces are blurred now. Consider as a researcher you have the clear and unanonymized. So this is anonymized data because faces are blurred. We are not able to identify these learners. Yeah? But as a researcher you have the clear data, HD picture quality you have. You can see every face, you can see every person sitting there, what they are doing with their hands, how they are sitting, everything is visible. What are their facial expression, that is also visible, that you have to assume, and then try to answer the question which of the following factors you will consider to make the bounding boxes for individual. And you can also see the bounding boxes here in the image, no? So there is this one bounding box over here which is for face. There is one bounding box over here. Yeah, there is this one bounding box like this. Here is another bounding box like this. One bounding box here, one bounding box here. Yeah. And so on. Okay, so these are the bounding boxes which are observed. I left this guy only. Okay, ठीक. So now for this, what are the different factors which we can consider? So face, body posture, we all are agreeing to face and body posture. Okay, so there is no discussion that one bounding box should be to detect the face. But we are seeing another bounding box also which is giving us some idea about the posture as well. Yeah, so how they are sitting. So one bounding box is here. Now are you noticing the hand gestures? Yeah, I will remove these bounding boxes. So you will notice the hand gesture of the students. Can you comment on their affective state or their engagement level based on their hand gesture? Now this particular student, it has his hands like this. This student is looking at teacher like this. This student is looking like this. Other one is doing something like this particular student is doing something, playing around with some pen. So is this, or if I'm yawning with my hands on my mouth, out of boredom I'm yawning and I'm putting hand on my mouth. So will the hand gesture give us information about engagement? Why, Ria, why you think hand gesture will not give us any information about how students are engaged? If I'm yawning like this, am I engaged? If I'm playing with my pen and not paying attention, am I engaged? Engagement is how involved, emotionally involved through their behavior, how much involvement they are showing to classroom teaching. Yes, you are very right, Abhiram Lavi. Yeah, so what happens is how interested they are in this, whether they are in focus state or out of focus state, that are given by hand gestures only, na? Not hand gestures, but hand gestures combined with posture and maybe the facial expressions also. If it is only emotional engagement or affective state, then only the facial expressions are enough. but we are talking about engagement here. We are talking about emotional engagement, behavioral engagement, and cognitive engagement. Yeah. So emotional engagement, behavioral engagement, emotional engagement, we can use only the facial expressions. We don't worry much about their posture or hand gesture or how they are sitting. So that is not really that important. But when we are talking about engagement, yeah, so engagement, cognitive engagement and emotional engagement, we can detect that from their facial expressions. But behavioral engagement will also, the hand gestures, that will also tell us, along with the body posture and hand gesture, that will give us some information about how they are more engaged or less engaged because of their hand gestures or the posture. Sometimes we are truly focused on topics but not focused on how we are moving our hand. So say for example, I am moving my hand through face but I am engaged, but I am moving it and keeping it down. I'm holding pen in my hand and I'm writing something constantly, I'm making notes. So that means through my behavior I'm showing my engagement. Yeah, so when we are not paying attention, then those moments are momentary moment. But if I'm sleeping, I'm like this, my posture is also down, I'm giving support of my hand to my face. So this you can see, it's boredom. But whereas if I'm sitting like this and my hand is like this, that is more engagement. So for the behavioral engagement part, yes, more for behavioral engagement, yes, you're right. So for behavioral engagement part, we have to consider the gesture also and the hand movement also, whether they are holding hand. So what you can say about a person who is sitting here and a person sitting here, like this guy and this guy. Yeah. So as you are saying, we don't pay attention about our hand movement. So this guy in green t-shirt, he's sitting like this. And this guy in black t-shirt, he is doing something like this. His hand is almost covering his face. He's doing something like this. So whom do you say is more engaged, the green t-shirt guy or the black t-shirt guy? Are their hand gestures, how they have kept their hand, are we able to deduce some information about their engagement through that? If I'm in a classroom, if I'm sitting like this, will I be engaged? It is captured because there is a bounding box over here. The bounding box is not like this but like this. So we are capturing the hand gesture also. If you see closely, can you see this line? Can you see this bounding box? Can you see here this bounding box? Yeah, here. So there is one bounding box which is capturing the face, and one bounding box which is capturing the posture and the hand movement. Hand is out of this smaller box, but it is well within this bigger box. So when it comes to engagement, our body language also tells us how engaged we are. So when we are not paying attention to our hand gestures, our hand will be moving from here and there, and mostly will come back to the actions which we were doing. So if I am moving my hand, after few seconds I will come back to the posture which shows that I am engaged, holding a pen, writing something. So that those will be momentarily. But if I am sleeping, then maybe my hand will remain like this for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, for longer duration. But if I am engrossed, then I might hold my hand like this and pay attention. Through my facial expressions I would be showing that okay, I am engaged. Or like this guy here, writing something while listening to lecture. So that actions, that activities, that is combination of body gesture and hand gesture. What action we are doing at that point. So face is also required, body posture is also required, and hand gesture is also required because it is there in the list. Yeah. Because we are talking about emotional engagement, facial expression is important. Behavioral engagement and cognitive engagement. So for that cognitive engagement, so this guy in green shirt, when he is doing like this, he would be nodding in between. That we can capture through face data. And his hand is not moving constantly, or he is giving support like this and nodding through his facial expression. He is conveying his engagement in terms of behavior also, through his behavior, right? But this guy in black t-shirt over here, he is doing like this. His hand is clearly somewhere here. If not like this, it is like this. I mean, this we can clearly see. His fingers are starting from here, and the face, over the face it is going. So he may be yawning. So yawning is sign of boredom. Yeah? So through his behavior of yawning and covering his mouth with his hand, we are able to deduce that he is not engaged, or we are able to have some information that he is bored. So hand gesture are also good data point to have when we want to measure learner engagement. So this week's part is mostly theory part. Theory part as in, if you go and watch the videos carefully, you you will be able to answer most of the questions from this module. No, so please, for now onwards, for last week also I'd said the same thing, that this is mostly theory portion, where you need to watch the lectures, you need to understand what information is getting conveyed, and then you will be able to answer. If you go through lectures, you will be able to answer the questions based on that part of the topic. So for this week also, for last week also, that would be my suggestion, that because for most of the questions it was theory based, okay, it was factual questions and not much of application level question. And even for application level question, you need to have your information clear with you. For that, go through the lecture, go to iMotion's blog to understand more about action units and how different action units are considered together to deduce. Saccadic movement is based on the eye gaze coordinates. So once you have the coordinate value, you can calculate the distance between different coordinates, consecutive coordinates. So if consecutive, and you can draw the line based on that coordinates. So that is called gaze trace. So that trace, you are tracing the gaze, eye gaze. So if that trace is in one line, then that is saccadic movement. That in that one line, if there is one line, that means if I'm moving from left to right. So if you are able to draw that line based on the eye tracking coordinates, that's the saccadic movement. If they are disconnected, if there is one and then I'm suddenly looking at top left corner, and then I'm suddenly looking at, after that I'm looking at top right corner, then it is not saccadic movement, because saccadic movement is continuous movement. So that you can detect based on the eye gaze eye tracker data, the coordinates which eye tracker has collected. Same thing for fixations also. For on the same coordinate, if eye gaze remains for more number of time, that recorded for after every seconds, the eye gaze eye tracker will be recording the coordinates. So based on that, you can see if the same coordinate is getting repeated for multiple number of times, then that is fixation. And if you are able to draw a line for consecutive readings, then that is saccadic movement. There are no more questions. Yes, revision class is on 22nd October. So next week will be our 12th week. After that, the next Tuesday would be revision class. Actually, next week will also be like revision, where we will be going through what we have learned and doing something. Yes, same time, 7 p.m. Yeah. Not changing the time, not changing the timetable. I hope NPTEL folks will post about it on the what you can say on the forum. If they are not doing it, you already have the meeting link. I will be using the same meeting link for 22nd October revision class also. So you already have, we are using the same link every week. So same link we will use for revision class as well. And I have pinned in the comments, I have pinned the link to the folder where where I'm keeping all the PDFs of every week. So you can access previous week's PDFs also, the same folder. So in the same way, saccadic movements in learning, we do learning analytics to understand um how learning is happening. So when I am having continuous eye movement, so this is the, so you consider this slide which is displayed in meeting. So in you are joining from your laptop. So from your laptop there is a certain portion of the screen which is occupied by this material, which is the slide which I have shared. So in that you will try to read this question, so your eyes will move from left to right. So saccadic movements are there which will give us insights about reading behavior of learners, which information they focus on, or are they completely reading. So if I'm reading this question from beginning to end, then my eye will have that saccadic movement from left to right, then again from left to right, then again from left to right for n number of times. N number will be n number of lines of that question. So this will tell learner that there are this will tell researcher that a learner has read this question completely, because there are n saccadic movement observed for that learner. So this was for question. If there is some theory portion given, then learner will understand if that theory is getting read completely by all the learners. So it will be a insight into reading behavior, which information is read more number of times, which information is read less number of times. So fixations will tell us which information students find important, which information students are spending more time. Yeah, so all these insights, they will help us understand the learning processes, how the learning is happening, and it will in turn help in optimizing the learning environment. So that was about eye gaze into learning, including saccadic movement, fixation, everything will give us more information about how students are processing this information while they are learning. Any insight on job opportunities in line to this domain? Oh my god. If you find, please tell us also. We are roughly 10 to 12 research scholars working in learning analytics. We all are looking for job after PhD. So if you find, tell us also. There are very limited job opportunities in learning analytics. So if you find learning analytics job, please include us also on LinkedIn. Yeah. So I don't know about job opportunities. I'm so sorry. I'm not able to help. But we not sure. I am not able to answer that question. Yeah, even we are not sure. We are all working on to this area. We are actively using learning analytics for our research, and still we don't know where to apply for jobs. So I'm not sure. The more specialized you becomes, the more difficult job hunt becomes. Yeah, it should come. There are many edtech companies which are working onto developing some learning environments in India. So they would greatly benefit from researchers in learning analytics areas. So you can look for those edtech companies, because they would have through app they would have all the data of learners, the log data, their assessment data, and they would need someone who has the knowledge about how to process that data. So look for edtech companies. They should be interested in hiring learning analytics professionals. All the session links in NPTEL. So I have shared. Okay, I'm not sure why NPTEL folks are not posting all the links on Swayam portal, because only they have, yeah, I mean edtech companies, yes. Because you know what happens is NPTEL people only, they are able to post in announcement sections. We are not able to post in announcement section. So till last year, what they used to do is we used to share one Excel sheet with them with the link to the YouTube recording and everything, and they used to share that Excel sheet with all the people who have enrolled through their
I'm
announcement
sorry,
section.
excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, yes.
Usually we'll get all the problem solving session links in NPTEL
Yeah, that's what they
page,
used to
ma'am.
do. But this year, have they updated that? That's my question.
Yeah,
The-
ma'am. Last month I wrote 2 exams, ma'am. That problem solving sessions were updated in the page itself.
Yeah, that's how it goes,
Easy
you know.
to learn at the exam time. That's why, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. No, that is how they do it every year. Till last year, they used to do it. This year, I'm not sure if they're doing it or not.
For all the other courses we are getting, ma'am.
Then maybe you should write in the discussion forum that we are not getting the recordings, and I will also try to connect with NPTEL folks and remind them that okay, you are supposed to share that Excel sheet only. So in Excel sheet, what we do is that after every session, we update that Excel sheet
Yeah, in the
with
Excel sheet only we are
yeah.
getting links from
Yeah.
there
So
only.
I'm maintaining that Excel sheet from my end, and NPTEL folks are supposed to share that Excel sheet with you guys. So somehow I think they have missed that. I'm not sure if they have missed or they are sharing. So look for that Excel sheet on the course
Okay,
page.
ma'am. If you are doing it, it's very helpful for me.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes, it is there. I mean, I'm not sure. Wait, let me. Uh, yeah. Try to see if you are able to access this link which I have shared now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, you can see this Excel. So this is the Excel I'm maintaining. I have recording of all the weeks starting from week 1.
Okay.
So what I will do, if they are not sharing, I will share this from my side in the beginning of the session, like I share for the PDFs. No, I have pinned that one comment link to all the PDF documents which we are using. So I'm converting my presentations into PDF document, the marked presentations, and that also I'm sharing for like anyone with the link can view those. That setting is there for that also. The same link you will find in this Excel sheet. Okay, so if they are not doing it, what I can do is in discussion forum I can paste this link so that everyone can have access to it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
I think this is oversight from NPTEL folks that they have not shared. I will also check. You also cross check for problem solving sessions or live. I think they call it problem solving sessions. So they will have.
I checked yesterday, ma'am. It's
Was it
not there.
It's not there. Okay,
It's not there.
I will try to get in touch with yeah, NPTEL folks and ask them to do it.
But Ram Kumar sir's sessions are there actually.
Yeah, they do. I don't know, for these
Okay.
sessions also they used
Okay,
to
I
do.
understood, ma'am. Understood.
For these sessions also
Okay.
they used to share that Excel sheet, but this year I don't know, somehow they have missed. I will try to get in touch with the current TAs and I will ask them to get in touch with NPTEL folks and ask them to do this. And meanwhile, every week I will be sharing this Excel sheet link here also with you, and for greater benefit I will try to post it in forum. Yeah, so if there are no more doubts, then we can close this meeting. Yeah. Okay, great. See you all next week. Same time, Tuesday. Okay. Yeah. So closing this meeting for all.